Welcome into The Checklist, brought to you by Secure Mac. I'm Ken Ray.
I'm Nicholas Rapa.
And I'm Nicholas Topchek.
Each week on The Checklist, you're not going to believe this, we work through a checklist. It's right there in the name. We're hitting the best practices for keeping your digital life trouble-free, or as trouble-free as it can be. Last week, we looked at getting your old iPhone ready to sell or give away because it is new iPhone season. And by now, you've had a look at the latest iPhone, and it will be yours. Oh yes, it will be yours. Maybe you're a pre-order person. Maybe you're a go-to-the-carrier person. Maybe you like to stand in line at the Apple Store. Hey, maybe somebody is giving you their old iPhone because they're getting a new one. Well, it won't be new. It'll still be new to you. See, the thing is, no matter how you get your iOS device, there are things that we should all do to make sure that using those devices is safe and painless. So today's checklist, the 5 things to do when welcoming a new iOS device into your life. We're concentrating on iPhone, of course, because it is that season, though there are steps here that would be applicable to an iPad, an iPod Touch, any iOS device. The steps and the order in which we will hit them: be prepared, unboxing and setting up your new iPhone, starting services and security features, pairing your Apple Watch, should you have an Apple Watch, and finally updating all of your apps. Now, following these steps will not only make setting up your new iThing a breeze, it'll also make it safe to use when you stuff every bit of your personal information into your pocket. Which is crazy, right? It used to just be the internet in your pocket, and now it's like, oh, well, it's your internet and your health information and all your passwords and your banking. The little things, I like to call them. So guys, let's get started. The very first step, you're going to play Boy Scout here. Be prepared.
Yep, it is not just a catchy song from The Lion King. You really want to make sure you're all set and prepared before you even take that first step of unpacking your new iPhone. That is
so difficult. You're telling people, hey, it's Christmas morning, so be sure to eat your breakfast and go outside and, take care of chores. It's a new thing right there, man. How do you not open it just first thing?
Didn't your parents make you wait to open presents, or was that just my experience?
I was a good kid, so I did. But yeah, okay. So you're not even unboxing yet. What goes into preparation?
Okay, well, basically you want to take some of these optional recommendations that can make life easier, but there are some essential steps too that you want to take before doing anything else. Just to avoid heartache and headache later on. The very, very, very first one is to make sure you are running the latest version of iTunes. When new iOS devices come out, Apple generally releases a new version of iTunes around that same time. So if you're not already running the latest version on your computer, you want to go to the App Store or to the Apple website if you're on a Windows machine and download and install that latest version of iTunes. Basically, in the past, you had to use iTunes when you're upgrading to a new phone for everything from activating the phone itself to restoring from a backup. And a little different nowadays with iCloud backups in the mix. But if you do need to plug your phone into the computer for any reason when you're completing the setup process, or if you were restoring from a backup on your computer itself, you need to be running the latest version of iTunes. So that is definitely the first step to take from my own personal experience. Sitting there for an hour trying to figure out what's wrong before I realized I was not quite running the latest version. But yeah, so that'll stop some of those problems from even getting in there in the first place. So that's the essential thing. There are some optional recommendations as well, basically that will just make things easier if you're planning ahead before you get started. So if you want to transfer content from your old phone to a new one, you're going to want that recent backup from your old phone. Mm-hmm. You could always start fresh if you really want to. I know people who do that, when their old phone gets too cluttered or whatever, but most of the time you're going to want to transfer your old data over. So make sure you have your previous backup, and then you'll want to make sure that all of your accessories that you bought for your old phone work with your new one. When Apple switched from the 30-pin dock connector to Lightning, for example, a lot of customers found out that their old accessories weren't going to work anymore, at least not without an adapter. And also you'd want to make sure that you have a new case for your phone that will fit, especially if you're going from a small size phone to a larger one, or vice versa, or if your old case is just wearing out. Make sure you grab one that'll fit if a case is how you like to rock your iPhone.
Let me ask you a question, actually, about something you said a minute ago. The whole whether you want to start fresh or whether you want to work from a backup. I mean, I think I said on last week's show, I've got pictures that I've been carrying since my very first iPhone because I just continually, restore from backup, all the way through. I went to an Apple store recently, though, and there was a problem, and they said that it was not a battery issue. It was a problem somewhere in the software, and so they suggested that I nuke the phone and start over. Now, I did that, and the battery issue persisted, so I went ahead and restored from backup. So it's almost like I never did that with my phone. But I mean, do you have a best practice like starting with a new device? Do you recommend restoring from backup? Do you recommend starting from scratch? Because getting your contacts back on is easy now with iCloud. Getting your pictures back on is relatively easy now with iCloud. Half of us now are listening to streaming music, so it's not even about that. I mean, is there a best way to go?
Right now, personally, I still just restore from backup. I make sure that I'm running, the latest and greatest version of iOS before making that backup on my old device. In the past, there were the same actually goes for Macs themselves with OS X. Sometimes when migrating from an older version of an operating system, be it iOS or OS X, to a newer version, there were bugs in the past where stuff wouldn't work correctly, your files wouldn't open. I think there was an iPhoto library problem a few years back. And that stuff has mostly been worked out. I can't remember any recent reports that were widespread issues. So I just personally go from my backup. I guess a case where you might want to start fresh is if you were, for whatever reason, going from a larger size device to a smaller size device. I don't really know anybody who does that. But if that would be the case, and you wouldn't have enough room on your new phone to fit everything that was on your old phone, that's one situation where I could think of where you'd want to be starting fresh.
Or if you just didn't want 50,000 emails to follow you along since 2001.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Wow. Suddenly, you've made me think that I might start my next iPhone fresh, just with that alone. All right, so we are now prepared, which is exciting because we finally get to, very gently. Because the other thing about why you don't want to wait to unbox, why you might be, feel compelled to go ahead and open, a lot of people take 45 minutes to an hour just to unbox their phone anyway. So talk to me about unboxing and setting up your new iPhone.
Well, you probably want to be at home before you unbox it, or you'll end up in one of those videos, where the person drops the brand new phone right outside the Apple store.
Yeah.
Once you're safely at home and you unpack the iPhone, you might want to keep the box, the packaging, if you're planning on reselling in the future, just because that can increase the resale value, and the box is easy enough to store in the closet or whatever. So it's time to go ahead and set up the phone, start the activation process. So basically, there are a number of steps to take, and Apple has made it very, very easy. You can actually do all of these on the phone itself these days. So the first step is obviously turn on your device, and you'll see that hello screen with all the different languages going by, and just slide to unlock and start the setup process. You have to go through the very basics, selecting your preferred language, your country or region, basically any of the stuff that tells iOS how to display things like date and time, contacts, that kind of stuff. You'd need to make sure you have a Wi-Fi network available. You can use a cellular connection, but Wi-Fi is obviously the way to go, especially if you're going to be restoring from an iCloud backup, because it would not work otherwise. So you'll locate your network, tap on it, enter your Wi-Fi password, and then you'll connect to the Wi-Fi network and you'll be able to continue.
Do you remember your Wi-Fi password?
Yes.
You do? I don't. And that's one of the things for me. I always do the roll your head across the keyboard, add all the extra characters. And so when friends come over, they're like, "Can I hop on your wireless network?" Sure. Here's the key for you. It's about 80 characters long, and it looks pretty much like this. For me, keychain access is one of my favorite things. So under your Mac, you have your keychain access, which holds all of your passwords that you have your computer remember. From the utilities folder under your hard disk, you have keychain access. From there, you can look up your wireless network name, and you could see your password listed from right there. All 80 characters, super long, or your easy passwords that you remember. But for me, I make it really long.
So then let me ask a question. For you then, would you actually want to go through all that trouble and type in the 80 characters on your phone, or would you rather go ahead and just do the backup, do the whole process through iTunes?
I really like the feeling of starting fresh, making sure everything is up to date, putting in my usernames and passwords, double checking my connection security settings, making sure everything is up to par. Because when you're traveling around, every now and then you'll turn things on or off. You may downgrade your security from here to there or upgrade it, but for me, I like double checking the settings and limiting my phone what's on it. I like that fresh new feeling. And when it downloads the 50,000 emails from our server, it makes it feel special.
Well, they tend to feel special anyway, but yeah, okay, all right. It almost sounds like the two of you are saying it's sort of a matter of personal preference in a way. I mean, there are safe ways to do it, but there's not one safe way to do it. I like to do it this way, I like to do it that way. I mean, you sort of feel around for what feels best for you, while still making sure that everything is kept safe.
Exactly. And that's actually a really good point with regards to decisions on security and privacy, because that kind of is what the next actual setup step is. Basically, the location services feature is what allows things like Maps, Find My iPhone, and other apps and services to determine approximately where you're located. Mm-hmm. It can be really helpful, when you ask Siri to tell you what movies are playing near you, or ask for a good restaurant, that kind of stuff. But some people have privacy concerns there, or you don't want some random game gathering and using your location data without actually having a valid reason. So Apple will prompt you whether or not you want to turn on location services at that point in setup. You can always turn it on later in the settings app, and you can also specify access to location services kind of on a granular per app basis, also from the settings app after setup's complete. So during the initial setup, it's really up to you whether or not you enable location services. It doesn't really matter during the setup, and again, you can do it at any point later in the privacy section of the settings app. So kind of continuing on, though, with the theme of security and privacy would be setting up Touch ID, which obviously isn't available on some of the older devices, but any of the newer iPhones, at least 10, and some of the new iPads have Touch ID. And that would basically allow your thumbprint or your fingerprint to unlock your device, make purchases in the App Store, make purchases in iTunes. It works with Apple Pay. Basically, your fingerprint is your password, so you don't have to enter that 80-character Wi-Fi password, which could make life a lot easier. The setup is pretty simple. You kind of roll your finger around on the home button until the phone tells you it's all set. It takes a couple minutes to get it all set there, but once you have that set up, you'll also need to create a passcode for your device. Basically, a passcode is the alternate way of unlocking your phone. If your fingerprint isn't registering for some reason, if your hand is sweaty or wet or whatever, sometimes it won't identify your fingerprint, so you'd have to manually enter your passcode anyway, or on devices that don't have Touch ID available. Normally, the default is a 6-digit passcode these days. You can technically choose passcode options to set a custom passcode where you could include letters and symbols instead of just numbers, and I can provide extra security. You could downgrade to a 4-digit passcode, just the old style, which is not recommended anymore.
And how many people still have that?
Yep.
There's so many folks you see pull out their phone and they just put in their 4-digit passcode on their brand new phone, going, oh man, you got to upgrade that.
I got to be honest, until the thing I was talking about a few minutes ago, where I had to nuke the phone and start over, even when I went back to my restore from backup, it still required the 6-digit passcode at that point.
Yep. I think they changed that a little while ago, where one of the updates was requiring the extended passcode during setup.
Well, I know if I hadn't had to do that whole thing, I would still be walking around with the 4-digit passcode. So I know it's better. I know it's more secure. I get it. But I was one of those people that Nicholas was just making fun of.
Well, at least you had a passcode set up. Some people don't have any passcode, which is definitely not recommended. Anybody who picks up your phone could swipe to unlock and get all your data. Either way, you will need a passcode if you want to use features like Touch ID and Apple Pay. So it's obviously in your best interest to set one up, as well as the other security and privacy protections that come from having a passcode on your phone. At that point, you've kind of gotten through some of that initial setup, and it's time to finally transfer that content from your old iPhone by restoring from backup. Obviously, we said previously, if you haven't already made that backup from your old phone, our previous episode, we actually have the step-by-step instructions on how to do that. So you might want to pause and go listen to that if you need to. But otherwise, assuming that you already have the backup from your old device, you can either restore from iCloud backup over Wi-Fi, or restore from iTunes backup, where you plug directly into your computer. And that would depend on which method you used when you made the backup. You back up to iCloud, you basically get the restore from iCloud. If you back up to iTunes on your computer, you'd be plugging into your computer to get your backup back. Basically, if you're restoring from iCloud backup, you have to sign into iCloud with your Apple ID and password on your phone, at which point you'll be able to choose that recent backup you just made and restore from it. Likewise, if you're restoring from iTunes, you plug your new phone into your computer, select the previous backup from your previous device, and click the Restore Backup button. And then you might have to enter your password if the backup was encrypted. But either way, it'll take a little while. So just leave your phone connected to Wi-Fi or connected to your computer. Just wait for it to finish. If you're doing the iCloud restore, you'd probably want to also have your phone plugged into a power outlet, because when it's downloading all those photos and apps and stuff afterwards, that can kind of take some power and juice for your phone. So it would be in your best interest just to leave it plugged in and let it do its thing. After you're done restoring from backup, you might be prompted to sign in with your Apple ID one more time on your new iPhone. So go ahead and do so if need be.
Yeah, because, I mean, if it's that pop-up that asks that, you can tell that, well, hopefully you can tell the difference. Gosh, we may even have to talk about that someday, of like, where you give your password to and how you can tell that it's actually Apple asking for your password, actually your iPhone asking for your password, as opposed to, some random something. But let's not worry about that today, because we got 3 more steps that we want to go through on what to do after buying your new iPhone. In fact, here is step number 3 now. Enabling services and security features. These are things like, iCloud, Apple Pay. The cool things that Apple is doing now to sort of, I don't know, theoretically make your life easier, to make the iPhone even more indispensable, as Tim Cook says. Talk to me about getting some of these services rolling.
The next step in setup is kind of enabling some of the services and security features provided by Apple. Mm-hmm. They're kind of additional things you can enable, and some choices to make. The first one would be deciding if you want to use iCloud with your new device. Now, obviously, if you just restore from an iCloud backup, you're probably going to want to continue using iCloud.
Right.
It has lots of benefits. It stores your photos and documents online, so they're not taking up space on your phone. It backs up your phone's data, so if you lose or your device gets stolen, you've got that recent backup. It syncs contacts, calendars, all those kind of things. Helps you track down your lost or stolen device with Find My iPhone. So iCloud is pretty cool. Definitely something we'd recommend. But you do get the choice. Then you'd need to decide if you do decide to use iCloud, you'd need to decide whether or not you're going to use iCloud Drive to store your files in iCloud, which allows you to access them across all of your devices. So your Mac, your iPad, anything like that. iCloud Drive, I believe it comes with 5 gigabytes by default, and you can pay Apple for a larger amount of storage space, which it's a pretty nominal monthly cost for a fair amount of storage, and then you don't have to worry about running out of room with all those photos you're taking or anything else. So
I want to say, as we record this, just about a week or 2 weeks ago, the top end now, it's like 2 terabytes for $20 a month.
That's a lot of storage.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're shooting lots of video or something like that, there might be some people who actually need that level. But I mean, the point is, yeah, they're offering a tremendous amount of storage now for as you say, a nominal fee per month.
And if you're not backing up to your computer, I've run into so many folks who run out of space and they end up just getting errors on their devices because they don't have any more space to do backup. And the easy solution, if you're not going to do a local backup to your computer, is to increase your space on the cloud.
Once iCloud setup is out of the way, on some devices, not available on all of them, but you'll have the opportunity to set up Apple Pay. And that's Apple's wireless payment system that allows you to securely store your credit card details on your device. And then when you're at the checkout counter at a retail store, you can just use Touch ID to complete your purchase. You don't need to swipe your card, or you don't even need to have your card with you as long as you have your phone. So that's definitely a nice benefit that's been rolling out in more and more stores, and it's pretty cool. So you have the option to set that up if you'd like, and then you have the option to set up Siri, allowing you to use your voice to make phone calls, send messages, check the weather, all those cool things that Siri can do. So just decide whether or not you're going to enable Siri, and at that point, setup is pretty much complete. There's a few more questions Apple has if you want to share information with app developers. So that would be if you're playing some game and the game crashes. If you have enabled that option to share information with the app developers will get a anonymous crash log from Apple, which can kind of help them track down whatever bug caused the app to crash and hopefully fix it. So that's really helpful for developers who are trying to track down bugs. But for some users, that can be a privacy concern. So it's really up to you on an individual basis whether or not you want to enable that. Developers will thank you if you do, though.
Indeed.
Then if you are using one of the larger phones, iPhone 6 or later, you'll have to choose a display resolution. So that allows you basically if you can basically how big everything's displayed on the phone, since those screens have gotten pretty big and sometimes it's a little hard for people to stretch their thumb across the whole screen. So it's setting up the resolution. You can make it a little bit bigger or smaller. And then at that point, you're pretty much done with the setup. But then now that you can start using your phone, but there's one more thing to do, and that is really, really important, which is making sure that Find My iPhone is enabled. So that will help you locate your device in the event of a loss or theft. So to enable that is really, really simple. You just go to your iPhone's home screen, tap Settings, and then tap iCloud. Again, this is something that will require you to be using iCloud on your device, that option you had a little earlier. So then you'd scroll to the bottom and tap Find My iPhone, and you can enable Find My iPhone and Send Last Location, which is basically the part of the feature that sends the phone's location to Apple on a fairly regular basis. So when the phone is lost or stolen, if it's connected to a network, a cellular network, Wi-Fi network, it will be able to give you an approximate location of where that phone is.
People may be wondering, okay, what good is Find My iPhone if it's set up on my phone, but then I lose my phone? But then, of course, you go to, I think it's iCloud.com, right?
iCloud.com.
And you log into whatever your iCloud settings are. And I will tell you, honestly, I love Find My iPhone if for no better reason than occasionally I will lose my phone around the house. And you can go to iCloud.com, you can go to Find My iPhone, and you can ping it. You can basically get it to start playing like a sonar like message of some sort, like a sound.
A nice obnoxious sound.
A nice obnoxious sound, yeah, but one that comes right through the cushions of the couch, which it turns out is where the phone fell or something like that. And you can also send a message, like a text message that shows up on the screen. So let's say somebody's holding your phone, they don't know whose phone it is. You can actually send a message that says, call me at another number besides my phone, because otherwise, it's really no good for you.
The nice part about the audio pinging is that works even if your phone is in silent or vibrate mode. Mm-hmm. So even if you couldn't hear your phone ringing when you're trying to call your phone from your friend's phone or your house phone, pinging it will still play that obnoxious, annoying, really nice audio sound that'll let you figure out where it is in your, around the house or in the couch, wherever. So that's kind of a nice little benefit there.
Step 4 is not going to apply to everybody, though it's going to apply to more and more people as we go. Pairing your Apple Watch to your new iPhone. Now, I said earlier that a lot of these things are applicable to all kinds of iOS devices. So far, you can only pair your Apple Watch to an iPhone. So this is iPhone specific and it's Apple Watch specific. But if you're not an Apple Watch person, stick with us because it's one step and there's at least one more for you.
So if you have an Apple Watch, now it's time to pair it with your iPhone. If you haven't already unpaired it from your old iPhone, which automatically creates a backup of your Apple Watch, be sure to check out our previous podcast on 5 things to do before selling your old iOS device, where we have complete instructions on steps to take. Assuming you've already followed these steps to unpair your Apple Watch from your old iPhone, pairing it with your new iPhone, it's straightforward. What you want to do is open your Watch app on your iPhone and tap your preferred language. And from there, you'll tap Start Pairing on your Apple Watch and again on your iPhone. Your watch will start displaying a rather trippy pairing animation.
It's pretty cool.
It's honestly some of the greatest graphics on Apple Watch you only see when you're restoring Apple Watch.
I wish they'd show it more often.
Yeah, well, and then I tried taking it. I think I did actually snap a screenshot of it the last time I did it because it's pretty cool looking.
Once your pairing animation starts on your watch, I mean, after you've enjoyed watching it, the center of the watch face in the viewfinder that appears on your iPhone screen, hold it steady until you see a message on your iPhone watch that it's been paired.
It's almost like you're taking a picture of your watch with your phone. It's kind of a little viewfinder, and just hold it there for a few seconds. Or if you've ever used the iTunes can automatically detect gift cards from Apple where it grabs those digits, it's a similar process.
Or reading credit cards, holding it over it.
Exactly.
And then on your iPhone, you want to tap Restore from Backup, and you want to select the most recent backup that you, of course, did last time to transfer your old content back to your Apple Watch.
Now, if all this sounds a bit confusing, and I mean, we said there are 5 things on the checklist, but then each checklist item has had a few steps within. There are a couple of things to let you know. First of all, a lot of what we're talking about here, Apple is going to walk you through as well. So, like the thing that we were just talking about the watch, if you look at your watch while you're setting up your watch is going to pop something up that says, okay, do this next. The other thing to let you know, and we'll be reminding you of this again in a couple of minutes, but we are going to have all the steps and then all the sort of secondary steps at our website, and that is securemac.com/checklist. And if you didn't have a pen and paper ready for that, grab one now because we'll be talking about it in a moment. After we finish up with item 5 on the checklist, making sure that all your stuff is up to date. Talk to me, first of all, I guess, about why this is important. And, I mean, is that something that you would want to do before you transfer? Or right around the time you get a new iPhone, you also get a new version of iOS. And so you're going to have a lot of developers who are going to have been ready. But, I mean, it really is going to be a few days of, man, how many more updates can I have, depending on how many apps you have on your phone.
Yeah, that's generally... When a new version of iOS comes out, there's that rush in the App Store where developers try and get their new versions submitted. There will be some developers who have a couple versions within the first couple days if there were some hardware bugs that they didn't know about, stuff like that. One of the reasons, I mean, generally, if you can upgrade your old phone to the newest version of iOS and update your apps and everything before you make that backup and transfer to your new one, that'll kind of just save you some time. Where you're not going to be redoing that later. The only time that could be maybe not an issue, but something to be aware of is some apps have certain hardware requirements where the cutoff for a version of an app will be, anything that's before an iPhone 6 can run version 4 of the app. But to run version 5, you need to have an iPhone 6 or better. So if you're using an old phone and you were stuck with an old version of the app, your old phone literally could not update to the newer version. You'd have to be checking for that update on your new phone when you have the new hardware.
So to check for your app updates, you want to make sure you're connected to a Wi-Fi network. If you're trying to update any apps not over a Wi-Fi network, over the cellular connection, your phone will tell you if the app is too large to update, and it'll basically say that you have to get on a wireless network to upload that application. To get to that point, you want to tap on the App Store icon on your iPhone, and then you want to tap on Updates in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. You may already see the little notification icon showing how many apps you have waiting there to be updated. You could do them one by one, but it's way easier to do the update all link in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Once your existing apps have all been updated to the latest version, you might feel like grabbing a couple new apps from the App Store. A lot of times when new hardware is released, Apple will like to showcase a couple new apps that take advantage of the latest and greatest technology and hardware, and they'll show that on the App Store.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Grab a few new apps, try out those new features on your phone, make a FaceTime call to a friend, take some pictures of that snazzy new camera. It's time to enjoy the iPhone. You're set.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, honestly, I know I was joking earlier about you want to just rip into the box. Well, not rip into the box because it's an Apple box. You want to actually very delicately cut off the cellophane, fold that nicely, and put it over on the side, and slowly take everything out. You want to get straight to the playing with it, but I mean, obviously, as we talked about, I mean, you're going to be walking around with this thing. I have one friend who buys a new iPhone every year. I know other people who hold on to their iPhones for 3 or 4. You're going to be walking around with this thing for a very long time. Even a year is a long time, considering all the information that it holds. So, starting off by hitting these steps and making sure that you're going into it securely, just increases your chances of having a good experience all the way through. As I mentioned earlier, if you missed any of those steps, or if you want to go back and take a sort of a closer look at some of the steps as they go, we are going to have all of these steps up on the show's website. That is securemac.com/checklist. Get to know that. And do me one other favor, too. Maybe all this stuff seems remedial to you. Maybe you are a security person or you feel fairly well versed. There are people in your life who call you all the time. You know who they are. There are people in your life who call you all the time to say, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? I got this message. What does that mean? And the thing to do is first of all, turn them on to the resources that are at securemac.com, but then also turn them on to this show, please. Available wherever quality podcasts are served. And, of course, you should be able to find the latest link to the latest episode at securemac.com/checklist as well. If you have a particular topic or a question that you would like for us to hit, we do have an email address. It is checklist@securemac.com. And as always, if you have trouble remembering that email address, you are listening to The Checklist by Secure Mac. And we will talk to you again next week.